Let's go back to the Vipashyana practice, investigating the mind, investigating awareness. Setting the body into a state of relaxation, stillness, and vigilance. Allowing the breathing to settle into its natural rhythm. And allowing the mind to come to rest in the present moment. Simply becoming aware of the sensations of the breath. Now releasing all appearances and allowing the mind to come to rest. Resting in awareness, knowing that you're aware. there's any agitation, tension or distraction, lower the gaze, release awareness into space, releasing all appearances and relaxing completely. Who is it that is releasing awareness? Are there two awarenesses? The one that is doing the releasing and the one that is being released? Just look. And just rest. Resting in awareness. Who is resting in awareness? Again, just look. And again, just rest. Resting in awareness. How big is awareness? Is it very small or very large? and just rest. Resting in awareness. I'd like to just give a brief summary of the main practices of this retreat, and then time for some questions after that. So of course the first half of the retreat, the main practice was this Shamatha practice. The practice of it's a concentration practice, to develop single-pointed concentration. And of course we saw there that even though it's not really mentioned so much in the meditation texts, one key element there is this basis of relaxation. That for us in the modern world, we're coming from an environment where we have a lot of agitation and tension, and we tend to bring that into meditation, and we have all sorts of problems because we're tight and tense. So the first thing we really need to do is relax, relax, relax. Something that many of us have lost the ability to do in the modern world. So that's where we need to start. Just emphasising the relaxation. Relaxed body, relaxed mind. And then having established a basis in relaxation, then of course we can work to improve stability of attention and then to improve clarity of attention. So we're working on them in this order. Remember the analogy of the tree. First sinking deep roots of relaxation. That will support the stronger trunk of stability. The stronger the trunk of stability, the higher the branches and leaves of clarity can go. So don't be in a hurry to try to generate clarity without that relaxation and stability. It'll be like the tree, it'll just fall over. And of course, we do that in the Shamatha practice by attending to an object. We used 3 objects in this retreat: the breath, the mind, and resting in awareness. As we saw, each one of those 3 has its own unique benefits, particularly for us in the modern world. And again, the general recommendation is use the object that works best for you. So it would be helpful to become somewhat competent at each one of those 3, because each one we can have benefit from in its own unique way. But then if we really want to pursue this path of Shamatha, particularly in a more retreat setting, then we would be best to pick one of these objects and stay with it. And remember, we can use then also the advice from Alan Wallace that to start with mindfulness of breathing, because it's generally most easy. Work with that for some time, weeks, months, maybe longer. And then once our mind becomes more stable and clear, then we can switch to either observing the mind or resting in awareness. And we saw in this practice that the first fault was laziness. And to overcome that, of course, to reflect on the benefits of the practice. And I think together with that, if we really want to overcome this laziness, is to really shift this worldview. As long as our worldview is, my happiness is coming from out there, I think we're going to be very lazy when it comes to doing this and other meditation practices. Whereas if we can really appreciate that happiness is coming from within and understand this shamatha is the doorway to that, then we'll be very enthusiastic to do this practice. And then we saw that the 2 main imbalances in that practice was dullness and distraction, or laxity and excitation. And of course, prevention is the best cure. So if there are certain things we can do to help prevent them arising in meditation. And again, of course, the first is we need to be enthusiastic about the practice. If we're not enthusiastic about the practice, then both dullness and distraction will, of course, dominate our practice. So therefore, to have that enthusiasm by, again, understanding the benefits of the practice. And also very helpful here, of course, setting a good motivation for the practice, but very helpful to try to include others in our motivation for any practice. Because if things get a little bit difficult and we're only doing this for our own benefit, then it's more likely or more easy that we'll just give up. Whereas if we include others in our motivation, that we're also doing this for others, then we're more likely to persist if things get a bit difficult. And also that much broader motivation will hold us better in the practice as well. And then, of course, briefly mentioned earlier, quality over quantity. Particularly as a beginner, don't try and meditate too long. Because if we try and meditate too long, then the latter part of the meditation, we're not going to be able to sustain it. We'll just fall into complete dullness or complete distraction. And then we're actually increasing the very things we're trying to decrease. So always emphasize quality over quantity. But of course, if we really want to go further in the practice, then at some point we'll need to start to extend the amount of time. Because if we're only ever doing 15 minutes in the morning, we can only really make so much progress. We won't be able to go very far. And again, how to know when to start to extend, how long we meditate. One measure is if at the end of our meditation session our normal experience is, oh, I would have liked to have done a little bit more, that's a sign to slowly increase. But always emphasize quality over quantity. And so then, some specific things for overcoming dullness and distraction. I mean, not for overcoming, for helping to prevent, rather. Posture. Of course, if we don't have a straight back and we're sort of like this, then there's probably a high probability we'll fall into dullness. So make sure the back is nice and straight, and head position. If the head position is too low, probably dullness. If it's too high, maybe some agitation. So adjust head position. And also what we saw, of course, is in general recommended to have the eyes at least slightly open. Otherwise we'll probably fall into dullness. But here I think as a beginner we can be a little bit flexible. If we're the sort of person that tends to get much more agitated than dull, maybe eyes open, you just get more agitated, then close them. But if we're the sort of person that tends to get more dull than agitated, I wouldn't recommend having the eyes closed, then to have them open, at least slightly. And then of course the environment where we meditate will have a big impact. So if we're meditating in a hot, stuffy room, then of course dullness will set in. So make sure the temperature and light is according to what works best for us to help avoid either the dullness or distraction, agitation. And of course, one big reason that we fall into dullness, particularly in the modern world when we meditate, is we simply don't get enough sleep. That we have very busy lives, we never have enough time for everything, so what we tend to do is we cut on sleep from 8 to 7 to 6 to 5 to 4 hours. And somehow we manage to get by, but of course it comes at a big physical and emotional cost. And also, of course, in meditation we're just going to catch up on more sleep. So we need to make sure that we get enough quality sleep if we really want to meditate. Also, like that, not a good idea to meditate after a heavy meal, because again, dullness will sink in. In fact, if we are maybe even doing a more retreat setting, very helpful to not eat too much in general. I mean, we don't really need, in that sort of environment, we certainly don't need 3 meals a day. So to really make sure we have a healthy diet and not eating too much. And diet really is another big reason why we have problems in not only meditation in the modern world, but this sort of epidemic of ADHD that we see. I mean, of course, there are many factors for that, but I think one of the main factors in the modern world is diet and just too much sugar. I mean, sugar is a disaster. It just goes up, down, up, down, up, down. So we really need to make sure that we restrict sugar intake, particularly refined sugar. Not helpful at all in general for that, and certainly for concentration. And then, of course, again, at a deeper level, we tend to fall into dullness if we've lost interest in the practice. So make sure that we maintain that level of enthusiasm, again, by reflecting on the benefits of the practice. And then even if we find the practice difficult, we'll be enthusiastically doing it because we'll see that it's going to bring us a lot of benefit. And then also, of course, on the side of agitation and distraction, again, environmental conditions, to take care of environmental conditions. And of course, one of the big factors here for distraction is noise. So really try to find an environment where it's nice and quiet. If you can't find that, then I really recommend noise cancelling headphones. I use them a lot when I'm in a noisy environment. I find them very, very helpful. not so cheap. I mean, I think a good pair, probably $300 or $400, but for me, if you're doing a lot of meditation in a noisy environment, it's money well spent. So that can be something very helpful for noise, if there's a noisy environment. And then, of course, for both dullness and distraction, if they arise, then of course, if agitation, distraction arises, then to relax, release, return. If dullness arises, to sharpen the focus, this balancing between sharpening and loosening. And so then we saw that in the Shamatha practice, then we can move through these 9 stages. So that was the normal model. We also saw that 4-stage model for the mind practice,